but what's going to be bigger business in the U.S. and in Japan?
Sure.
It's
I hear you.
Okada Omega. Like, we're at the point where, like, there was a time where Jay White and Omega would have done, like, a year and a half ago, would have done much bigger business than it will right now. So this is not the time to strike on that. This is the wrong time to have him beat Okada and then get challenged by Omega. They would actually be making less money doing it that way. He needs something that beats him up the way that they like. He needs like an MJF or like Cyclops promo or something crazy.
But he's done that. He's done the post Wrestle Kingdom promo,
and they fucked it up.
They, without a doubt,
they fucked it up royal,
without a doubt. So that's what. So what? Who are we to trust that again? Because we know he can do it, and it was awesome, and it heated him up, and he was the hottest talent going, and then he showed up at Korakuen Hall.
Right. And that's why I keep saying on both sides, because it's not all on him. A lot of it is the creative. I'm sure a guy like him is probably frustrated given all the things that we've heard that have gone on with the pandemic era with the company, and then the follow-up creative after he made himself the hottest thing in wrestling for a few weeks, and then he comes back to cricket because they didn't have any. I mean, they paired him up with ECW. ECW is great. He should have been doing something to actually push the business forward. They didn't give him the opportunity to do that. So it's not all him. A lot of it is company.
Yeah. We have some questions here. Okay, 90 says, if Okada wins, do you expect him to be holding it long? Do you want him to hold it long? Do you fancy to take the belt off Okada? Same for if Jay wins.
Oh yeah, this is something I've been saying for a few weeks now, and I think it's time for me to kind of unveil it on the show. I think now, specifically, is the time that you turn Kazuchika Okada full-fledged heel. I'm not gonna like speculate beyond that what needs to happen as far as face alignments of his group or, you know, leadership of blah blah blah. I don't know. But like, to me, with all the young talent that's coming up and the shades of gray, how there's so few true heels outside of Jay White, now is the time, in my opinion, if you really want to do something, like if you want to make Okada interesting again, now's the time you turn him full-fledged heel run with him at the top. It's been a very long time that any heel on a major scale or level has held the title for a prolonged period in New Japan. And I think that they have a lot of babyface aligned guys that could become fresh challengers, like even guys in the facing past, like Naito or Tanahashi. But then you also have Shota Umino, you got Zack Sabre Jr., and the list goes on and on. There's a bunch of people, and I feel like putting him in that kind of position where like he's sort of like a Jumbo Saruta type figurehead, but he's a dick and he knows it and he's leaning into it, would probably be one of the smartest booking decisions you can make at this current time. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like if I was Gato and I was putting Okada on top at, you know, the memorial for what's wrong with me?
Inoki.
You know, for Inoki, I'd have him cut a fucking heel promo about how Inoki was never really that good. He's been light years beyond Inoki the whole time, and garner that kind of heat and just enrage the people and like set himself up as like, yeah, like I'm the guy, I've been the fucking guy, and there's no one left, you know, for me. And he goes on a rampage, and I feel like there's a lot of money you can make there.
I don't think that's what they're gonna do. But I hear you on the heel turn. That'd be fine. It would make things more interesting. Hearing crowds to vocalize about that as well, which I think would put it over a little better. And you're right. Then he becomes a big boss, and eventually someone will beat him. Right? Someone fresh, someone new, someone old, could be anything, right?
Yeah, this also creates another faction shakeup. With players, he won't be probably leading Chaos anymore. He can create his own faction. Maybe he's holding some of the leading guys, some of the newer guys, and form a new version of whatever you want to call it.
And if he's the big boss, anybody can challenge him on any level, and it's gonna do well. It doesn't matter if it's Chris Jericho or Jon Moxley or Tanahashi or Yuya Uemura returning or Gabe Kidd. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun to see. Senor Cabrera 3K says, will the show end with the next challenger appearing, a la Kenta, and if not, who will be the next contender after, most likely, #Okada wins.
I do think that this is a year where we see the next challenge because I think they're expecting a lot of eyes on the show, and I think that they want people to recognize what's next. It's been a while since we didn't have the next challenger make some sort of statement or appearance on the card. So yes, I think we see it. I don't have a good read on who it'll be, and I hope I'm surprised by it. But yeah, I think we will see something develop in the post match, regardless of who wins.
I hope the personality comes up on the airway.
I want to throw. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say, I think that the fact that they have a New Year's match that's completely Mystery Vortex style the next night is very interesting and very telling to what might potentially be on the horizon as far as all this is concerned, because that's another reason why we haven't had, like for instance, Kenta did that big call out, but we didn't have the same kind of New Year's dash that we are used to getting over the past years where we established those types of feuds. So that's one thing. But if I had to guess some of the likely names I could see it being, I think Shota Umino is on the table. I think Shingo Takagi is on the table. I think the winner or loser, I don't know, depending of Omega or Ospreay is also a possibility. And then there's a few names from AEW, depending on what they're doing at the Yokohama Arena show, that are also possibilities if you're trying to do something there. I don't know.
There's one name I want to throw out here. It's kind of a crazy. It might seem out of left field. It might not seem possible, but there's one guy who said that he was going to be at the Tokyo Dome. Doesn't have an announced match. And that man is Katsuyori Shibata.
Oh God, that bro, my heart is beating.
It's probably very unlikely, but what if, it's being Shibata, he wants to wrestle again, he had the match with Orange Cassidy, maybe New Japan's like, you know what, alright, we'll let him do it, and he comes out at the end of the show and calls out Okada, and your first big title match, new beginning, Okada against Shibata.
I'll cry.
That would rule.
I'll cry.
Give me the blow.
I think we've all kind of speculated on that in the past, but it now does seem like a more likely moment than any other time for to actually pull the trigger on something like that. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
That'd be crazy.
That'd be so crazy.
I would love it. I mean, he's wrestling.
Also,
or
Suzuki's also a possibility too.
Yeah. Which would be fun. It'd be more fun if he won, because I think that's interesting. Dude, give him a 30-day reign. Give him a transitional reign to get to your next baby phase, right? I don't think they'll do it, but it'd be cool.
I'm very much pro give Ishii and give Suzuki a consolation title reign at some point before they retire. Both of those guys. That's just me.
Yeah, so Ishii would be interesting if Okada goes full heel, and Ishii defends the honor of Chaos quietly with no promos, right? But
and no support from anyone else.
Exactly. That could be a banger though. They'd have a heck of a match.
Yeah. Last question here from Juice19 9100. What direction do you guys see the IWGP Heavyweight Championship going in 2023? Personally, I would like to see Will Ospreay get a proper run or Minoru Suzuki finally winning it.
I'm not really sure where they're going, but I will say this. I think it's starting to get to the point where, for me, and this is why I'm proposing he goes heel, a babyface prolonged run with Okada just seems kind of monotonous and boring to me at this point. I do think it's time for them to shake things up a bit and maybe move the title in a different direction, even if just for a bit, you know? Oh, another name we didn't throw out there, and I mean, it's highly unlikely, but, like, you never know. What if Kota Ibushi shows up?
That would be a surprise.
Yeah, that would be wild.
That'd be cool. I mean, that's Okada. You know, Okada for a long time said he wanted Ibushi. He wanted Ibushi. He wanted to finish the match. It started during G1, really.
Right.
So,
Yeah, the story built in.
yeah, I mean, if Ibushi's somehow staying with New Japan and they've softened, you know, their hard feelings for each other, that would be the play. Actually, that or Shibata would get me just amped up. Yeah, tough to say. I mean, there's no, but when Kenta, you know, ambushed Naito, no one saw that coming.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I think we're more likely to be surprised than for it to be the person or someone that we've talked about.
Right. I feel like, you know, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this show, and so they definitely need to capitalize with a hot show closing angle that's going to build up the next title match. Or else that's somebody, just even if it's a call out or it's an angle where somebody's like dumping Okada or Jay, whoever it is. But as far as, you know, what do I see direction? I don't know what their direction is, but for me, like, I would like to see just some more heated main events. I feel like even this past year with Okada's championship run, the first half of the year, a lot of the main events I don't feel like had a ton of heat behind them. I mean, there were a lot of great rematches, like the Okada-Zack match, the Okada-Naito matches. Like, those were matches kind of already built up on previously established, you know, feuds and matches that happened in the past. I like to see some kind of fresh matchups with some heat built up to them, besides just kind of relying on, you know, the old stories to set up a title match.
I want to see more defenses is what I want. I want someone to win this title that's going to say, like, take on all challengers, right? And I know there's a certain cadence of how New Japan, you know, books the title match, the main event scene, but I think if you pepper in, even throughout, like, the first half of the year, pre-G1, 2 or 3 more defenses than you kind of would naturally do with, the New Japan Cup winner and et cetera, like the kind of classic defenses. If you can pepper in 2, maybe 3 more in the beginning of the year, I think you get that belt in front of more eyes. And I think, you know, they're going to deliver.
There's opportunities. You think about it. There's the U.S. tours now with some of those pay-per-views. And, you know, we've had some really long tours and long tournaments this year that weren't normally there. That might not, you know, if you shorten some of those up, it might create opportunity for more title defenses.
Even a Fantastica Mania defense, you know, like, like bring someone in at that level that can go.
Barbaro Cavernario. Actually, if you wanted to do something cool, you probably have him defend against, like, Mystico.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably the biggest name you could probably think of, or either that or, you know, Ultimo Guerrero.
Right.
Yeah.
And, like, you know what's gonna happen, but it's a defense, you know?
Right.
Like, I think that would be a cool way to, like, really, not that the title's only gotten cold since Jay White's had it. I mean, I don't think it was necessarily cold. It was just in its natural state. I thought it
was pretty cold on Okada all year too. I feel like
all the Naito matches.
Yeah, I think that this year the heavyweight tournament matches have really been at the forefront of the main event scene, and the actual title and the title defenses and the champions have been pretty monotonous and cold, and the champions themselves have actually fared better from a performance standpoint in tournaments than they have in their actual defenses duties, you know? And I think that's going to change this year. Whatever, just my guess, like, I feel like we're kind of at a low point. I don't see them going down. The only way is up. So I think that in 2023 we'll see a stronger title scene as the company, you know, repairs itself.
Yeah, so before we move on, final predictions you guys got for matchup.
Like I said, I think, you know, gun to my head, I have to make a decision. I'm going to pick Okada.
yeah, I'm picking Okada. I just feel like it would be a mistake to go with Jay at this point, unless it really gives you something to believe otherwise. So, yeah, I'm picking Okada.
Yeah, I'm also going with Kazuchika Okada. I think that makes all the most sense. And the story they're telling of Jay having Okada's number, I think Okada, getting another win on Jay in the main event makes a ton of sense. Now move on to double main event one for the IWGP United States title. The current champion, the leader of the United Empire, Will Ospreay, will defend against the best bout machine, Kenny Omega. And so obviously this match came from the post-match angle from Historic Crossover. And we got the surprising video package of Kenny Omega calling out Will Ospreay. And, unlike Okada and Jay White, I feel like there's been a ton of heat and interest with this matchup. With that angle that happened with the Omega video package, and then plus just all the interviews that Omega's been doing in the media, including the recent article that just came up on NJ72.com, with just the way Kenny's been picturing himself and, kind of blaming Will Ospreay for the quote-unquote, downfall of New Japan over the last couple of years.
Yeah, this match is hot. And we haven't even actually seen them physically interact, right? So it's kind of proof positive that you can build a match without necessarily getting into the same place. So I think that's worth noting, right? Because they didn't do that with the main event with Jay White, right? So Omega's been great in his promos and the interview that was posted at NJPW 1972. He's clearly invested in building this match with Ospreay and making sure that it's seen as a worldwide event, which I think it is. I think it's being seen that way. I think we're going to see New Japan World subs go up. Maybe not. Definitely not to the level of Jericho. Because what Jericho gives is leverage Kenny Omega's rise and just really kind of do that out of the water. Whereas these are two guys that are still at their peak, and I don't think Ospreay is at the level that Omega was in the sense of his reputation growing. He's had his reputation as a fantastic wrestler for a long time right now. So it wasn't people kind of checking it out to see what this guy can do. People know what Will Ospreay can do, and they know he's fantastic. Now, that doesn't make it any less exciting that he's finally going to mix it up with Kenny Omega, because, for this generation of pro wrestling fans in the space of, say, New Japan and AEW, that's the match that people have pointed to for a very long time as the one that they want to see. So, I'm excited to see it. I love that it's the U.S. title. I know a lot of people said that this match didn't need a title and you could have done it just as a special singles match, but I think for the parallels of the Jericho situation 5 years ago, I think it's important that the belt is involved, because it's the same belt, and it's the belt that Kenny built up in New Japan, and, it's the belt that, Will Ospreay's wrapped up in right now. So I think, the U.S. title as the semi-main double main in a big spot here is a move, right? And I think what I'm seeing and kind of me reading between the lines is that the Western audience and the United States is a really big priority for New Japan right now. And with that, I think, comes the U.S. title, right? So if Kenny wins the U.S. title, he can just defend it on Dynamite occasionally. Or he can come back and defend it in Japan, too. So, and I think if it's still on Will, then maybe there's a program to be had where you then have Kenny versus Will later down the line on an AEW show, right? So I do think we're going to see this match more than once, probably more than once this year, because I don't know that AEW can wait to put a big card on either. So Yeah, I'm stoked for this match, and I think both guys have done fantastic character work to build it.
There's back here. It's kind of antithesis. Yeah, it's the antithesis of the main event in that there's loads and loads of layers and discussion points and analysis to be had when it comes to this particular matchup. I mean, the fact that these guys have only matched up one time in a one-on-one match. It happened in Vita years and years ago when, Ospreay wasn't even with New Japan at the time. So,
I watched that the other day.
Oh, it's great.
It will not be the same this year. So.
No, it's not gonna be great like this. It's great for a PWG showcase match from 2015 or whatever. But to see these two guys, where they've gotten to, where they've traversed, how they've built their, reputations and their, just repertoire of matches and accolades and championship wins and everything that kind of goes with that. And this is sort of like that historical fantasy style matchup. I mean, you've pretty much got what many people consider the very best Western wrestler in Kenny Omega, and who made his name in Japan, and then you've got Will Ospreay, who, for a lot of people seen as the greatest talent in the world today, who finds his trade in Japan, and, the idea of, a lot of people kind of felt like once Kenny left with AEW, that this was something that just couldn't happen, it never would happen, and now it is, and it's happening at the peak point for both guys. And the fact that, say what you will about the AEW Japan relationship, I know there's a lot of, diehard pro fans that don't like it, and they're not fans of Tony Khan and AEW, but the mere fact that Japan is getting this match first, and they're getting it in Tokyo Dome, is testament to some of the goodwill that's at play between these two companies, because they could have very easily said, no, we're going to do it first, and then you guys scraps, and it's not happening in that order, which is pretty important. And I do think, like Chris said, it's going to make a huge difference in, in subscriptions and fan interest. I mean, say what you will, there's a lot of people that will the talking point and the rhetoric was you can in fact, and for a lot of diehards, they got all up in arms about that statement, like, no, New Japan never did leave, it's always been here, you just weren't watching. Well, it's like, well, you should be glad that there are people who weren't tuning in that are now being inclined to tune in to the promotion that you are a supporter of and that you're a fan of, because that's what happened in 2017, and it was a really, or 2018 or whatever, and it was a really great thing for a spike in business and a boom period for these guys. And I think one of the biggest, as far as match quality goes, considering the reputation of these guys, the athleticism of these guys, the psychology, the mindset, and the attitude they both have as far as like their craft, I think this is the first time that I can confidently say we're going to see two guys that are capable and willing to go to the same levels that, say, Omega and Ospreay did at Wrestle Kingdom 11. Not saying that it's going to be on that level. I'm not saying it's going to surpass that level. But if there ever were two guys to match it or surpass it, these are the two guys, and now is the time for that to happen. And I think that's very possible, and it's not unlikely whatsoever. So I think the hype and anticipation is very real and very grounded in an awesome thing. And then plus, I do love the build that these guys have made, even though it's been a little understated. But they've kind of taken it upon themselves to make this really feel like something that is real, and the hatred is very, palpable. Like, these guys really fucking hate each other, which I think couldn't be further from the truth. But that's awesome that they've kind of injected this program with that kind of vulnerability. And then the last thing I'll say about it is, I know there are New Japan fans and pro, like elitists who are very concerned about New Japan as a brand. They're concerned about Will Ospreay, and they're concerned about the title as it pertains to what if Kenny Omega wins. They're concerned that the company or the champion or the title are going to be made to be diminished in the light of a former returning star who's going to, use this to basically make himself more famous and kind of shit on the company and potentially damage the brand. And I really think that is a misguided fear and not reality-based whatsoever. I think that if you take a step back and you look at what Kenny is doing, he's doing a lot here to try and establish Will Ospreay and establish him as like the next step main event player, the same way Chris Jericho did for him when he came over. And I'm not saying Will Ospreay's going to win. In fact, I don't think he's going to win, and I think that this is going to be the first of several matches in a prolonged series in a feud. Because, like you mentioned, Chris, I don't think that Will is where Kenny was when Kenny wrestled Chris Jericho. I think that he's as talented, or maybe even more talented than he was at that point, but he doesn't have the same groundswell of support and reputation that Kenny had built to that point. But I think Kenny is doing as much as he can in this situation to try and give him the right dance partner and the right platform to showcase who he is and what he can do. And long term, I think that this is going to be a business positive for the title, for the company, and for Will Ospreay. And I think that the story is about the ascension of Will Ospreay. Not like an ascension like he was the champion at one point like he was a year or two ago. I'm talking about like he's the 1A, not 1A, like the number one gaijin in the country, the number one respected like foreigner, and there is no 1B. It's not like a situation where it's like him and Jay or him and Zach. Like, I think that this is the program that catapults into being seen as like a main event top 4 player in New Japan, someone that they can really count on for business moving forward in the same way that they did with Tanahashi, Naito, and Okada, for the past 5 or 6, 7, past decade. That's what the story is about. And I do think it's going to start with a loss for Will Ospreay. But regardless of what decision they decide to make, I am so excited to see this match, see it play out, see what the story is. And for me, this is probably my most anticipated match in many, many, many years. Like, in just wrestling, my fandom in general. And it's going to be very special. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this matchup. Kenny Omega